The following video is an analysis of Saudi Arabia in the international business sector. Please enjoy. Saudi Arabia, formerly known as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, KSA, is a desert nation located in Western Asia. It's the 14th largest country in the world by landmass and boasts a population density of 14 people per square kilometers of land, which is quite a bit compared to Canada's 4. It's also recognized as the birthplace of Islam and hosts a few of the religion's most sacred mosques. The Saudi Arabians' official language is Arabic, but English has a strong foothold in the Saudi Arabian business world. This is due largely to the oil trade, which comprised 90% of the government's income in 2014. Second to oil and gas is the nation's precious minerals, vital to creating the industrialized nation we see today. At its foundation, the KSA was extremely poor, relying on its agricultural scene. This changed dramatically in 1938 when vast oil reserves were discovered in Al-Hassa. From then on, the KSA would grow and industrialize rapidly, backed by the Arabian American Oil Company. Eventually, the Saudi government would buy out the American shares, but this still left the USA with very strong connections in the oil trade. Technically, the KSA is an absolute monarchy, meaning the king does what he wants. But since the king is required to obey the Quran, and the Quran is the constitution, it is essentially a regular monarchy, albeit one rife with corruption. Anti-corruption laws are rarely enforced, and bribes in the form of felicitation payments are the norm. Saudi Arabia's legal system is the child of Sharia, Islamic law. It is derived from the Quran and the Sunnah, which are the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. The courts have no formal procedures, and it's not advisable for an external business to become involved in a legal dispute, especially with a crown corporation. The International HR Watch holds Saudi law enforcement in contempt, specifically condemning the Mab'ath, secret police, and the Mutawa, religious police, for corruption and unethical punishments. In business terms, the most significant difference in Saudi law is the place of women. If one wishes to be taken seriously, no female representative should be used in dealing with Saudi business. The law in the KSA calls women essentially possessions, and the written consent of a woman's guardian is required for them to work. Not quite the Canadian way of doing things. Saudi Arabia is a strong business nation. It boasts an unemployment rate of 5.5%, nearly 2% lower than Canada's. Its GDP per capita is just half of Canada's at $25,000, which is nothing to brag about, but not too shabby. The KSA does hold serious benefits for Canadian businesses. For example, $1 Canadian is equal to about 287 Saudi Riyal. Currently, Canada imports roughly twice as much as they export to the KSA, which leaves quite a bit of room for expansion. The KSA's biggest driver in Canadian exchange is oil. However, there is a push to diversify the market, welcoming other businesses in case oil collapses. The Saudi inflation rate is 4.2%, a scary number compared to Canada's 1.7% annually. However, it is important to consider that Canada boasts an unusually low rate, and 4.4% annually is not high enough to raise serious concern. While the official language of the KSA is Arabic, English will do just fine in the business scene. It is common practice to book meetings when one is already in the country. It's also important to remember the 5 daily prayers, during which time businesses are all closed. In general, the business scene reflects Canadian practices with a few key differences. One might notice much less privacy. Business is very personal in the KSA. And of course, gifts are vital. Further, gifts are actually just small bribes, and the bigger the deal, the bigger the gifts, if you catch my meaning. Bribery in the KSA is extremely common, in order to win work and finalize deals. This footage is of Saudi Arabia's beautiful Al Madinah airport. The nation is very welcoming to guests. Saudi Arabia's official foreign policy is to maintain its security and its paramount position on the Arabian Peninsula, and, as the world's largest exporter of oil, to maintain cooperative relationships with other oil-producing and major oil-consuming countries. Notice the focus on oil, even more than security. The KSA has been described as leading the pro-Western camp of Arab countries, although this runs contrary to its membership in the non-aligned movement. It is also a founding member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, another tribute to the value of oil in the Saudi economy. Saudi Arabia is a business nation founded upon its wealth of oil reserves. The problem being, energy experts around the world are raising concerns and support for clean energy, completely cutting the KSA's bloodline. Some experts claim oil could be a stagnant market as soon as 2050. We'll discuss more of what this means for Saudi Arabia in the conclusion section. Saudi Arabia holds some key business advantages. Thanks to its history in oil, it has all of the infrastructure necessary to facilitate business. Expanding on this, it is bordered on two sides by the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, facilitating sea trade, as well as bordering 7 countries for land trade, and a developed air traffic system. Another key item is Saudi Arabia's unusual population, of which 51% are younger than 25 years of age. Studies show that this age group spends the most time on non-essentials and luxury products, and that they are most present in online shopping, an emerging sector in Saudi Arabia. So here we have a major business nation founded in oil. As the value of that oil fades, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will need to diversify to survive, letting the whole world have access to their top-tier infrastructure, as well as the unique consumer market for luxury goods. Saudi Arabia has some degree of political change coming as a result of its human rights violations. However, none of that should adversely affect business. Alternately, there even seems to be a shift favoring Western culture and business practices, coming in part from the growing Saudi-Canadian trade markets. Any business looking to expand into Saudi Arabia should double-check their gifts and expenses policies, as well as their partners, and carefully tread the line of Canadian bribery law. All things considered, should Canadian businesses expand into Saudi Arabia?
Did I mention they also have kangaroos?